From Gazanica. Hello. Sensing the situation, Risa took my empty glass in my hand. Everyone else was chatting and about to leave, and I was about to catch up to him, but I stopped in my tracks. Huh? Ooh. It might have been because my query sounded a bit forceful. But Risa suddenly turned back to me. We'd wished for his time to go on forever. For there was no such thing as a never-ending dream. Right now, we can't foresee what could happen. We might need your help. On the other side of the receiver, Gazanica was bellowing. Ah, what an idiot I've been. I had been warned, I had been. As I listened to his lamenting voice, Chris and the others, from front, pointed down the hall. I followed everyone else's gaze. There was a huge projector set up there. People were gathering there, or pulling their tablets, or calling up a screen. Please repeat what you just said. What happened exactly? I asked in return. On the other side of the receiver, I could hear him yelling orders for staff or something. Never seen the actual beehive. I suppose this is the sort of thing that would actually happen if you poked one. It sounded like Gazanica was switching hands, fumbling with his receiver as I heard a rattling sound. And he briefly said this. There's a medical report. Science magazine was published today with an article that spread like wildfire. The net is an uproar right now. Since every major media company has picked it up now, every country on Earth has a Ministry of Foreign Affairs issue a joint declaration that travelling to a moon is dangerous. What? Someone said the same thing 4 years back, remember? If you stay on lunar surface for too many years, you won't be able to go back to Earth. That's the kind of medical report that's been released. I think I've received warnings about this. If only I'd investigated more. Low gravity syndrome. I muttered, recording a memory. It was in the news on the lunar surface some 5 or 6 years ago. It had been refuted, if I remember correctly, and eventually the whole thing had died out. But again, who refuted it? I had a very bad feeling about this. Earth is in an uproar. And even if it's worse, reports are an orbital elevator. This whole mess might spread into the economy too. Wait a second, I said the same things before, right? So why is it calling uproar now? My question, Gazanica groaned. Because the scholars who published that article made a joint statement. Statement? Emerald Industries has been suppressing facts that are inconvenient to them. In this place, there is always someone who would lie to someone else. I closed my eyes and clenched my teeth. The lunar surface soon fell prey to panic. The crowds on TV reminded me of the uproar surrounding Avalon 4 years ago. Back then, people had gathered in front of Avalon HQ. This time, they were at a spaceport in front of the orbital elevator with sparkling Emerald Industries logo plastered on it. In addition to the contents of a medical report, the accusation that Emerald Industries had stifled studies that were inconvenient to them for 4 years. For years on end. Of course, even further mayhem. At any rate, in order to leave the lunar surface and return to Earth, they had to take the orbital elevator managed by Emerald Industries. A three-sided conflict was unfolding between those who had decided it was time to bring down the giant company, the security company subcontracted by Garfist in charge of public safety, and the people who wanted to return to Earth as soon as possible. As for me, I tried the general government building after Gazanica's call, but the situation was so chaotic that I couldn't reach it. At the end, I returned to the office and gathered information. However, since the lunar surface stock market was closed, the information was coming from Earth, so there was only so much I could do. I could only do things like investigating the content of a medical report, and tracking the trends of the stock market on Earth until late at night. Nevertheless, compared to a ruckus it was causing down with the contents of a big report, though serious, I didn't feel like it was such a big emergency to me. Basically, the old people who were staying on the lunar surface for an extended period of time should leave as soon as possible. So after that, I spent my time answering calls addressed to a fund. After that, when I woke up from a nap, I saw footage from the orbital elevator on display I forgot to turn off. What time was it? Oh, the stock market opened a while ago. Marco said that glowing at display with an unsteady look. Seemed like he hadn't got any sleep. Lunar surface stock market has started for a time being. How much did it decrease? It's at 2.7%. Slowly going down. 2.8, 2.9. Is that the largest decline this year? Moving my mouse around, I opened up various websites and news sources I've been consulting. How's it going to turn out? Marco asked that. He probably wasn't talking about stock prices in the future. I saw different pages as I was looking at the price of a ticket for orbital elevator increased tenfold on auction sites. First class ticket was already expensive in the first place. Price now exceeded 1 million more each. And people were buying them. I had a hard time believing it. The price of gold is also increasing. It's almost as if a war started. Government bonds are selling like hotcakes too. Seems like everyone's avoiding risky investments. It's basically a typical stock market panic, eh? It was just too ordinary. Things will probably go back to normal. So what's about the futures? We're being bought little by little. The decline will probably stop past noon. Seems like the prices will start recovering tomorrow. Is that so? You read a medical report, haven't you? It's not some sort of epidemic. People's panic is mere temporary. I'd also looked at the housing market. Apparently it was still open for business despite the commotion in the front of the orbital elevator. The data summing things up on the property information relayed on the net by real estate companies didn't show any significant change in yesterday's values. Gazanica was panicking quite a bit though. I continued to speak as I leaned back in my chair, stretching with stiffness in my joints and my nap on the hard floor. Yes, he was talking as if the lunar surface had been submerged or something. Well, isn't he reacting to that because he's from the eye of a panic storm himself? Besides, I was pretty anxious for a while about what could happen too, you know. You missed it because you were asleep, but at some point the surroundings of the orbital elevator were verging on riot. Well, I won't deny that, but the orbital elevator is functioning properly. There's no plague happening. It's not that we're going to die if they don't return to Earth immediately. This panic is going to settle down. The economy will run as usual. It will probably simmer down soon. Well, some informative things and all that. Informative? I've been reminded of the Advisory Committee on Economic Matters can only do so much. If we want to do something, the only thing we can actually do is stare at moving figures. It's a bit worrying to think about how things would go if something actually happened, huh? Maybe it's because we were both born on a lunar surface, or because we only really cared about money making in the first place. But as soon as we understood the stock market wouldn't collapse, the tension we felt vanished into thin air. Meanwhile, the display was showing images of desperate people lining up in droves to get tickets to the orbital elevator. It seems the line was now over 2 kilometres long, with an estimated 16,000 people lining up. The whole thing with the orbital elevator is a bit worrying. Well, that's because if something actually happened, people wouldn't be able to get off the lunar surface right away, right? Yeah, it's obvious when you think about it, but seeing it in practice is a bit frightening. I'd always seen black and white photographs of people lining up like that. The images were from a simpler, less civilised time, mostly in underdeveloped Earth countries. Civilization was supposed to have progressed since those days. However, since it seemed that people who lived in the land of dreams just had to stand in line, pay lots of money to return to reality. From what I'm seeing on the net, it looks like people are escaping in order of fortune. Richest first. Is that because those who already earned enough money for the rest of their lives have no reason to stay here? Even the cheapest tickets cost over 100,000 was right. It's blatant capitalism, am I right? How are we going to manage with so many people? Marco muttered back to himself before applying for an incoming phone call. I was wondering the same thing. There were people who had a place to return to. People like myself and Marco, who had been born on the surface, had nowhere to go. True, a shady medical report had just been released. Seeing people lose their minds and bolt over that made a feeling of cold indifference well up inside of me. You want to go home? Be my guest. I was a bit surprised myself for thinking that. Was it my love for my homeland? I was aiming for an untrodden land, and I had a huge photograph of Mars hanging in my office. The mere thought made me laugh. How? We're asking about protection. So it's business as usual. Even in a time like this, huh? I guess we're not one to talk. Who is it and what do I want? It's Howard Brothers. I have a bad feeling about this. A bad feeling? I tilted my head as I repeated that expression. I opened a desk drawer and retrieved a cereal bar as a makeshift breakfast. Howard was talking about how I can make arrangements to provide protection of gathered investment companies willing to shoulder the risks of a protection. Right, how much was it again? 30 million? Apparently now costs 20% extra. I took a bite out of my cereal bar, grimacing and probably realising I didn't have any water to drink. I raised the price. Did someone else enter a market of protection? Maybe a doctor has raised more funds. Given our current situation, there's no way he could have done that. Who is it? A fund? Perceptive Trade Department of Investment Bank? At any rate, do they estimate the current commotion will have influence on the real estate market? Wonder if this will have a long-term influence. Never mind. What's happening with short-term? After all, houses are durable things. Indeed, people lining up in front of the orbital elevator aren't all tourists. There do seem to be people from this city as well. Since their houses are going to be vacant, they will either be for sale or for rent. But we may end up going back. After all, the stock market isn't collapsing, and it's not like all the stocks on the market are going to be sold off just because people are running away from Lunar's surface. Also, I doubt these properties would sell that quickly. I guess so. In fact, the real estate market hasn't battered an eyelash. So aren't people getting too hasty? Moreover, Howard is getting a bit bold. It probably means that someone else has turned up who's willing to fork over more than 30 million more. Based on some of the money involved, that isn't something they would do out of reflex. This is definitely a calculated decision. I gave it some thought. But I immediately said, put that on hold. On hold? I'm going out to observe a city. That's an ironclad rule when you want to invest in something. Please don't run to a flight just like that. My home is here. After replying to Marco's joke, I went outside. Interesting he still sticks to that golden rule he was taught by the bad guy. Someone somewhere started buying protection. That was a good sign. But it also meant that I now had to be on my guard. Newton City was filled with an eerie calm. It wasn't like no one was out in the streets, but there was only maybe half the usual people. Central Station was empty. You could see the fourth floor of the corridor connecting to Clapton Square. Since this was my first time seeing it, I noticed there was an advert too. Clapton Square, which used to be a nest of extravagance and a sensation, was bathed in an atmosphere akin to that of early morning when shops hadn't opened yet. If people knew they'd never be able to return to Earth if they lived here too long, they likely wouldn't get hooked on shopping. Even those running businesses were glancing at displays in their shops and their tablets. Most of them must be immigrants on Earth, so it looked like they were considering when to return to Earth based on the number of years they would work and their salaries. The first thing that did enter my vision was a branch office at a company mainly dealing with real estate loans, spearheaded by the man Dan, who was hairy up to the back of his hands. The booth was open today too, but there was no customers. There weren't many passers-by, so when restless employers noticed me looking at them, they gasped and smiled awkwardly. Seems they were more engrossed with looking at the displays at one booth over when serving potential customers. Very really, they can sit and watch tablets in their own booths. With Clapton Square in such a state, people only ever gathered in travel agencies for Earth and shops offering immigration to Earth for lunar-born people. I looked on a few more real estate agents and checked the state of affairs. After seeing those in shops, I bought ice cream from a stand, blinking it as I sat in a chair intended for breaks. Part-timers gave in and checked the news on their tablets, and lots of people in suits were down from a large plaza under the hall, contemplating the displays. It looked like the entire city was in the process of reconsidering their plans. I thought this was foolish, really. Reward investment is tough primarily because of those things known as predictions were usually useless both in the short term and in the long term. I think the less knowledgeable you are about investments you were, the easier it was for you to predict things in the long term rather than the short term. However, no matter what country or the era, within 10 years there was renewal in the most noticeable countries, and 30 years were quite competent companies were tended to disappear. Predicting this in advance was extremely hard. If a life of worker could be toyed with more easily than the destiny of a company they were working for, then figuring out a life plan would be even less certain than figuring out a long-term stock investment. That was what I saw before. I mean, looked no different from a group of people changing their eating habits because they saw a feature on high blood pressure and adult disease on TV. In other words, a bit of a fad. However, these guys entering a market of protection must be capable of thinking beyond that. After all, they can imagine the lunar surface economy being shaken up by what happened. Surely they'd also be aware of the risks of involving themselves with an industry as complex as protection. They would just have to buy futures and put options on betting future price drop. In other words, I think they did this because they had grounds for that kind of thought process. They weren't that pessimistic, so my guess was there was some other reason compelling enough to make them consider buying protection directly tied to the real estate market. If I could find out the reason, and ascertain that for myself, it was right, I would be able to go further than my rivals. And then I should be able to think about buying protection for the mezzanine and senior claims, which these bank guys were convinced could not collapse. Hence their ranking being equivalent to that of a national bond. But what could that reason be? Were they seeing a line of 16,000 people leaving the surface and thinking that it meant a lot of houses would go up for sale? As I suspected, such a simple idea didn't mesh well with massive investments in protection. After all, the 16,000 people lined up for the elevator likely included temporary residents moving out ahead of it scheduled and tourists. And sure, seeing 16,000 people lining up was quite a spectacle. The official census on the lunar surface listed a population well over 1 million. So what we're seeing was maybe like a 1% of a population, give or take. If more than half of these were temporary residents or tourists, how many of those people actually owned a house on the lunar surface and would decide to sell it off permanently and never come back? Most importantly, if they were to flee to Earth, wouldn't they hesitate to sell? After all, real estate on the lunar surface only kept going up. Wouldn't it common sense dictate that? If you went back to Earth, couldn't still count on the value of a property going up over time? Also, lining up to get off a planet and putting your house up for sale weren't even compatible behaviours in the first place. Why now, people lining up must be the ones who panicked. Okay, go back. Wouldn't these people's first thought be really to jump through all hoops necessary to put the house up for sale? As I'm going through notions of calling real estate agents and banks holding loans, that would be enough to call my head. I knew it. Something felt off. However, I couldn't turn a blind eye to Howard Brothers looking to increase their protection by 20%. It's probable, even if I were to buy more from somewhere else in the future, something like what happened might occur again. In order to not only accept the price hike, but also buy more, I needed a solid reason. As I was thinking, standing up to walk around Clapton Square again, I noticed that the incoming call on my tablet. A glance it showed was from Risa. Hello? How? Sorry to disturb you while you're working. No, it's okay, I was just doing some thinking. Some thinking, oh my. She sounded like a bit surprised, but if she knew what I was thinking about, she'd probably make a face like she wanted to scold me more than anything. So, what do you call me for? You going back to Earth? I'm not. But it's related to that, yes. Huh? I shifted my tablet back into my hands and leaned back into my chair. Looks like you're having trouble getting it out. Well, yes. You're about the only person I could tell. If I can help. Well, that is... Risa faltered saying this. I need you to lend me some money. Interesting. What could Risa want with money? Hopefully she's not in trouble. We're going to have to find out next time, because I think the time's up this episode. Well, as ever, thank you guys for watching. Have a wonderful day. Bye-bye.